Ship 26 sitting on the flame trench at Massis, Raptor engines cut in half at Sanchez, Starfactory finally meets up with Megabay 2 at the build site, and suborbital test pad destruction starts at the launch site. Hey everybody and welcome back. My name is gsse and we'll talk about that and more today in episode 41 of Starbase Flyover Update, brought to you by RGV Aerial Photography. Once again, due to cloudy weather, it has been a few weeks since the last flyover on the 20th of April. During this time, SpaceX crews have been super busy at all the sites across Starbase. Aerial photos were taken on the 9th of May and some ground photos shot the following day. With that, let's take a look around, starting at the Massis test facility. Before we dive in, let's have a quick look at Procky's labelled map to get you oriented. As always, we will begin at the static fire stand where we can see Ship 26 standing proudly. This is most likely for commissioning the tank farm and associated systems. It's not yet known whether SpaceX will conduct a static fire, as regulatory approval is still pending. Starting with the changes from the last flyover, we can see the concrete has been poured for the bottom of the trench. Looking below S26, we can see the platform is in position on the rail system. Over the last 2 weeks, SpaceX has been moving parts of the flame bucket into the trench for assembly. We can also see that the ramp has been poured leading up to the flame trench. To the side of the trench, we see the footings for a retaining wall that will extend access for maintenance vehicles to drive onto the sliding platform under the ship from that side. At the water tank farm, we can see a fifth heat exchanger has arrived in addition to the initial 4. Plumbing on this system looks mostly finished, with pressurized gaseous nitrogen supply lines, relief vents, and other associated pipework installed. Crews have added the finishing touches on the methane tank farm. Basket-type filters are now in place on the main LOX and liquid nitrogen lines, and all the plumbing up to the SQD looks finished. Moving to the structural test area, we can see work in the new testing rig is progressing well, with the inner ring installed. Additional steel sections are sitting nearby. The number of curved beams seem to indicate this structure will have 2 additional levels. A walkway has been installed around the first level, with 2 more sections nearby for the next 2. Pipework has also been installed leading to the QD structure. And with that, on to Sanchez. First, we'll get our bearings with this labelled map. Let's start at the gsse building. A new roof structure has been placed on top of 3 shipping containers. With work finishing at both the launch site tank farm and Massis upgrades, the whole area is being cleaned up in preparation for tower infrastructure to commence. At the booster transport stand construction area, the new booster stand outer ring has finally been finished. SpaceX plans to increase the cadence further, and with that, the number of boosters moving around, so more of these are a perfect sign. Moving to the left, we see the mystery structure. It looks like this new ring structure is precisely as we expected, with 2 rings of different radii. The speculation around them is that they might be for the Starfactory machines. This booster cap has also been completed. Rolling to the tower segment staging area, final work is restarted on the top 2 segments for the upcoming Pad B tower, which will be built at the launch site. SpaceX is finally getting prepared to roll the sections staged at the port of Brownsville, with multiple transport closures scheduled for those movements. Segment 7, seen here on the bottom right, arrived at Sanchez early May 15th, a day after its posted closure, likely due to inclement weather. A little further over, we can see 2 chopstick actuators. One of these is presumed to be the one removed from the left arm. The one with blue wrap on both ends recently arrived, and its destination is unknown. Near the power distribution area, crews have installed more conduit to this building. This electrical work could be linked to the upcoming tower work. In the rocket garden, the booster thrust sim cryo test stand has returned after taking B-13 to run to Massis and back to the center maintenance stand on Megabay 1. The booster underwent 2 cryo tests involved filling individually the methane and LOX tanks once each. The booster transport stand moved into Megabay 1 early on the 10th to move B-11 to the launch site. The ship puckshucker stand has since moved into high bay for S-31 rollout to Massis for cryo testing. The ship arrived at Massis during the night of the 11th of May. During its first cryo test on the evening of the 12th, S-31 suffered an anomaly with arcs and fire coming from the raceway, followed by detanking operations. Ship 32 is still staged here and could be moved to the high bay for further work to get ready for testing. Across from the rocket garden, we can see that the Raptors removed from B4 have now been separated into bells and powerheads. Plumbing around the commodities farm is being routed via this large hole in Remedius Avenue over to pipework previously seen near the rocket garden and to the rear of Megabay 1. It is believed that this plumbing is to connect the commodities to the 2 megabays and Starfactory. Finally, we will look at the 6-level parking garage. The 2 end sections have reached full height in record time, with the centre section now under construction. With that, let's hop over to the build site. Here's a labelled map of the build site you can refer to as we go over each topic of interest at the build site. We'll start our tour with a look at Megabay 2. With Ship 30 away for testing, in this view we can see the elevated platforms on the centre station lift. If we rotate around to this image, we can also see the 2 workstations on the left side of the bay. Unseen in the back right corner, commissioning of the turntable robot has begun. First welding a single ring to a triple ring, and then adding another single to make the development section 5 rings tall. In Megabay 1, B12 remains in the back left. We can see B13 on the centre station after making a round trip to Massis for cryoproof testing. B11 was on the back right stand during this flyover, but has since made its way to the OLM. B14 is now fully stacked in the front left. While out in the ring yard, a new iteration to the hot stage ring could be seen in this ground image. Our best guess is that this may be a new camera position to observe stacking operations and flight events like hot staging. Shifting over to the high bay, nothing remains as it's seen. During the flyover, S29 was in the front right tile station with S31 in the right back corner. Less than 2 days after the flyover, an S29 has made its way to the launch site. S31 has been moved to Massis for cryoproof testing, and S30 has been placed in the back right following static firing. Let's move to the Starfactory that has now taken nearly final form. The footprint near Megabay 2 now extends all the way to the bay. If we zoom in, we can see new footings that may connect with direct access between the bay and factory. Looking to the middle of the factory roof, we can see 2 areas that have been cut out. One of these has a crane sticking up through while being used to install bridge cranes on their rails. Behind the factory, Tent 4 has received fresh paint on a portion of its canvas. Utility trenches seen in previous flyovers have been covered over. A new building that may house additional fire suppression equipment for the factory has been erected. We also see the AC unit staged for installation on the factory roof. The retaining wall along South Bay has seen some added formwork. The factory ring yard near the village has been cleaned up with some articles, with a new E-dome sitting in the yard. This ground image shows a couple of booster barrel sections inside the factory. The one on the right a common dome section. The office building continues to make progress. Beams and floor decking have now expanded to the full height of some areas and over to the last wing. A curious series of new footings have now taken shape in the space between the factory and office. The formwork bears a striking resemblance to the office footings, though the spacing and alignment seem to correlate more to being a factory extension. A brief look at the village shows that the retention wall and concrete pathway along the wall has progressed and only a short section remains toward the hovercraft launch ramp. Let's now go to the launch site. I'd like to take this moment to thank Procky, who provides these labelled maps each week. Starting near the suborbital side of the site, the area in front of the Gateway to Mars sign is being filled with soil up to the property line. The end of the sign wall has also been removed for access to the Orbital Pad B expansion. We can see in the left corner, the strip of wetlands recently approved for development has been levelled with the land on either side of it. One of the newest additions to the site is the arrival of a Bauer BG-45, outfitted with a continuous flight auger for the installation of concrete foundation piles. The layout of these piles is currently a mystery, as they appear to be covered in soil after drilling to protect them, as the drill has been making multiple passes around the square-shaped area. We can see many rebar cages assembled, as well as a crew constructing more. Following static fire testing of Ship 30, the LR-11000 has been hooked up to the ship with a 2-point lifter in preparation for removal from suborbital pad B. In this ground photo from May 10th, we can see that Ship 30 has left the launch site and the first segment of the mount ring of suborbital pad B has been removed. By the morning of May 13th, all that remained was the 2 concrete legs and the platform for accessing the QD hardware. SpaceX is moving rapidly to remove the suborbital side of the site as it transitions into the second orbital launch pad. Speaking about removal, the concrete berm next to Pad B has also been dug out, with the concrete upper surface being demolished. As we shift to the middle of the launch site, the ship transport stand for S-30 is seen atop SPMTs, the 12-metre and 9-metre load spreaders alongside for future vertical tank removal. At the restroom facility, we can see the sheltered area on the east was for water storage. A concrete pumper is stationed to place what may be the final pour to finish this project. Raised concrete flower beds have been installed and planted out. In front of the horizontal LOX tanks, we can see 2 vaporizers installed laying on their sides, as well as 2 additional large vertical vaporizers have been added. Recent gsse testing suggests the entire horizontal tank system is now commissioned and ready for use for Flight 4, wet dress rehearsal and launch. Elon has posted that this could be as soon as 3 to 5 weeks. Moving farther down, we can see the large methane tank behind the subcoolers has finished being clad in protective metal sheeting. We now see the empty location of the water tank that had begun scrapping operations during the last flyover. Crane matting is laid nearby in preparation for the first liquid nitrogen tank to be removed. The crane was hooked up and crews started cutting the shell on the 12th, and in the same staggered style as before to account for the extra weight of the bracing. The fleet of 4 vac trucks used for perlite removal are parked in their loading location in front of the vertical LN2 tanks. They appear to be taking perlite from the LOX tanks now, indicating that they have been decommissioned. Moving to the end of the tank farm berm, we can see additional concrete has been laid, presumably to reduce soil erosion around the perimeter of the pad, due to the vent at ground level and thrust from static fires and launches. Finally, we turn our attention to the OLM, as final preparations appear to be closing in on flight readiness. The top of the OLM, including the Raptor QD shields, have received a fresh coat of paint. The BQD has also been painted. In this ground photo, we can see that the OLM legs have also been freshly painted, including the top segments of the primary staircase and adjacent staircase to the dance floor. These areas didn't seem to be important areas to paint during previous refurbishments, so it's nice to see these rusted surfaces freshened up. These preparations set the stage for the next round of possible full stack testing on the OLM. In this clip, courtesy of Rocket Future, we see B11 arriving at the launch site on the evening of May 10th. On May 11th, it would be lifted onto the OLM, seen here by our own RGV cam. Ship 29 made its way down Highway 4 on May 12th, arriving at the chopsticks ahead of stacking on B11. However, on May 14th, it was rolled away from the tower. Testing closures had been posted May 13th, with a Marine Safety Information Bulletin for a possible wet dress rehearsal on May 16th. With some of these closure dates already passed, unfortunately a wet dress rehearsal this week is looking less likely. Well, that's it for episode 41 of Starbase Flyover Update. I'm sure you'll agree it's been an amazing week at Starbase with plenty more to come. Thank you for choosing to fly with RGV Aerial Photography, and I hope you enjoyed the flight. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on further updates as we see further progress for Orbital Pad B. Please consider joining our Patreon to get early access to flyover galleries. I'm gsse, and I'll see you soon for another update on all things that are happening at Starbase, Texas from 10,500 feet.